Hello, everyone. How are you guys doing today? Today we are going to be talking about how you can 3x your traffic with AI. This is one of my favorite presentations that we're going to end up breaking down to you guys today, or more so a webinar. And the reason being is we've been using AI quite a bit at NP Digital. And we have some amazing case studies to showcase the results. So for example, we work with UTI through AI. We've been able to increase their search traffic for the areas we were focusing on by 411%, I believe it was. So we have some crazy stuff coming up. My name is Neil Patel. I'm the co-founder of NP Digital. We have Scott and Becky with us. Scott, do you want to give a quick introduction of yourself? And then Becky, you can go right after.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Scott Zimmerman. I effectively run our technical SEO department and manage all of our in-house AI software creation.
Hey everyone, I'm Becky McManus. I'm a senior SEO strategist at MP Digital, and I'm using AI all the time in my day-to-day life. So excited to talk to you about it today.
Awesome. So NP Digital, we've won a lot of awards. We're a global company with quite a few people that work for us and work with a lot of amazing brands. So keep in mind when we break down what you can do with AI to grow your traffic, we're doing this internally for ourselves, our customers, and it's working exceptionally well, hence all the awards. The first thing I want to talk about is if SEO is dead. A lot of people talk about this, like, is it dead? Well, Google's index over time keeps increasing, right? And SEO will help you find your page or it'll help people find your page versus the competitors. In essence, SEO isn't really dead, it's just changed and evolved. And internally, we like using the saying search everywhere optimization instead of search engine optimization. So we're just switching out the E there. And the reason being is SEO is no longer just Google. It's Google. It's all these LLMs out there. It's social media. It's literally anywhere where there is search. And I'll give you examples of this in a little bit. And Google's not a zero-sum game, right? 99% of people using generative AI platforms continue to use search engines. And the reason I wanted to put this stat here on this slide is, you see a lot of people saying, oh no, I'm using AI to do my search. I don't need search engines anymore. Well, the data is showing that 99% of people who use platforms like ChatGPT still use Google. It's like social media. Did you know the average person uses around 6.6 social networks according to Sprout Social on a monthly basis? That means people are using Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and LinkedIn. And Instagram did not crush Facebook, and TikTok did not crush Instagram, and Snap still exists, you know, even though they invented disappearing stories and everyone copied them. In other words, people use multiple platforms, and you're going to see the same thing with search. People are already starting to use multiple search platforms, and that's going to continually move forward in the future. The core SEO, or when you think about SEO, there's some core challenges that you need to think about for 2025. And I want to go over some of them. The first is winning is getting harder, right? It used to be back in the day, you do a Google search, you see 10 blue links, you click on it, and you're good to go. Then eventually they introduced ads. And believe it or not, they were thinking, worst case, if they can't figure out how to monetize it, just put banner ads everywhere on a Google page, right? Imagine that. Luckily, we didn't experience that. But you're seeing paid ads, AI overviews, you're seeing, a lot of rich snippets and things like that, or featured snippets that end up taking up a lot of the results and real estate. People also ask, the list goes on and on. So it's getting harder and harder to get organic clicks. But because Google's so popular, even though organic clicks are decreasing, you can still get traffic. And according to Danny Sullivan of Google, he's a search liaison, Google has driven more traffic to websites each and every single year organically since its existence. And with our data, when we look at all the data we've collected on the web, we're seeing that to be true still, right? I'm not saying that's always going to be true, but even with quote unquote 0 clicks, and a lot of them for keywords that don't matter, don't convert well anyways, like what's 2 plus 2? Or what's the weather in Los Angeles, California? Crushweather.com, but you know what? At the end of the day, that's not going to affect most people's revenue. And you're going to also see search becoming more and more personalized in the future. It already is personalized today, but you're going to see more personalization coming up in the future. And the reason I say that is Google has so much data on you, from Chrome to analytics to websites that are running their code, right? To their Android devices, to Gmail. Like, just think about that, right? They're able to personalize the results, or they should be able to personalize the results better than ChatGPT. Heck, they even have data deals with Reddit, with TikTok, and a lot of other platforms. So combined with their own data versus the data they're getting from other providers, you're going to start seeing results being more and more personalized versus, hey, I ranked #1 for this term on Google, dog food. Well, you may rank #1 for, Becky, but you may not rank #1 for Scott. And the big issue that you find with SEO is 4.6 billion pieces of content. That's a number of pieces of content that are created each and every single day. Not month, not year, daily. No wonder it's hard to stand out. And with AI, it's getting worse because more and more people are creating content. You're also seeing a shift in search behavior. Back in 2020, when we ran this survey here, most people just use a search engine like Google to perform a search. Fast forward to today, they use the search engine, social media, AI chatbots. I know the percentages add up to more than 100%, but that's because people use more than one platform to perform a search. And it's changing even more drastically with the younger generation. You're seeing the younger generation really loving to use social media, according to Forbes, right? Like Gen Z, they go to social media over Google to perform a search. And the Google VP even talked about this, I think, a year or two ago. And on top of that, the younger generation, they're using voice heavily. So when we all learned to search, we would type in a keyboard. I got a computer in front of me, I would type, perform a search, bada bing, bada boom, I'm off to the races. My kids, 3 and 5, I should know their ages, but they're 3 and 5, and they don't understand the concept of searching with the keyboard. Now keep in mind they can't type. But since my kids were young, they would go, Alexa, and they would just ask Alexa a question. And, it's done quite well for them, in which they get the responses to the answers that they're looking for through Alexa. And they think that's how you search. And the last Siri questions, they, as they grow up, are more likely to use voice search than people like us on this webinar, because we started with text first. And you'll see as time goes on, and with AI integrated with voice search, it's getting better and better. It should do, it should start changing the patterns on how people search. And you're also seeing that with Google Lens. I believe it is 10,000 or no, 10 billion searches, sorry, not 10,000, 10 billion searches a month coming through Google Lens, and it's increasing at a rapid rate. And SEO is also moving at the speed that's faster than most people can keep up. I believe in today's world, I don't have a real number, right, because it hasn't been published. I believe there's more than 20 plus algorithm changes happening per day now, right? Do I have data on that? No. But it used to be where Google's rolling out roughly 12 changes per day. Most of them are minor and you don't notice them. But with AI overviews and all the changes they've been doing, I believe it's much more than 12 a day. And if you look at the chart, it's been going up and up over time. And with personalization, I bet you're going to see that number go up, and eventually you're going to see 50, 100 changes per day, which makes it harder to keep up with SEO. So what do people do? They're like, oh, let's just use AI to help us with everything SEO related. But if you do that, it can actually hurt you. One of the main reasons is because of experience, expertise, authority, and trust. You need your content personalized to your audience. You need it to be different. You need it to not be regurgitated. You need it to show how you're an authority. You need it to show how you're talking about something that no one else has talked about on the web. All these things make content amazing, but it's hard to create content like that when people are just using AI. Does it mean AI is bad? No. There's a right and a wrong way to use it, and we'll break that down. And funny enough, I believe in a few days, I schedule our data charts in advance on our social profiles. Every day I post a chart. You can see it on X if you just go to the Neil Patel handle. One of the charts, I don't think it's in this presentation, and it's going to go live in a few days, I believe, is what are the blogs that are growing 20% plus a year in traffic doing differently than the ones that aren't? And they're actually using AI quite differently. They're all using AI, both blogs growing fast and not, but the ones that are growing much faster are using AI more strategically, which we'll talk about in today's webinar, versus the ones that aren't growing faster are just trying to use AI for as much as possible to save their time, and their content ends up being crap. Right? So you got to leverage AI wisely. Research, automation, optimization. Having AI write all your content fully isn't going to produce the best results.
All right, thanks for introing us in there, Neil. I'm going to go through, how AI can actually help your business and talk through some of the tactics, certainly early on in the presentation, and then we'll get into some case studies and more practical applications for everyone as we go through. So let's just set the scene here and get an overview of really what tools are out there and what are they best for. So on the left, you've got all the common models, and on the right side, you can see really where they excel and where some of the shortcomings are. I think OpenAI is obviously most commonly used. It has a wide depth of capabilities. That's slightly different than a couple of the different platforms, which I would argue are not quite as advanced yet. You can see for some, there's a real preference for Claude when it comes to writing and its sentence structure, language translation, whereas on the GPT side, you're going to be more code heavy. There's also language translation, but in a sense, it's capable of accepting more on the data input and then doing more with that as well. A couple of other ones like Microsoft Copilot. This is certainly something that can integrate really well with your organization if you're already using Microsoft products. But just to set the stage here, wanted to give everyone an overview of what the tools are and what they're best used for. You also want to understand what are the limits of these platforms. And, when we search on Google, we expect that information to be up to date to the day effectively, certainly if it's news related, where in these LLM platforms, the knowledge cutoffs are sometimes significantly behind, what has currently happened at present day. Fortunately, some of them have, integrations with existing search engines like Bing. We'll get into a couple of examples on how that is actually leveraged in what shows up into these different LLMs. But across the board, even though the knowledge cutoffs are a bit dated in certain instances, the integration of real-time searching using Bing and other partners, I think, adds a level of accuracy and recency to some of the data that otherwise wasn't previously available. Important to note, this is for the paid versions of these, obviously, and in a lot of instances, it is worth the $20. At least we find for almost every instance internally.
And even the, what is it, $200, right? I think one of the biggest plan goes to 200. I don't know what we pay for it, but it's something like that.
Yeah, it's certainly worth it, and even if you haven't figured out how you can use this for your business, it's certainly worth a trial and beginning to test some of the tactics that we're talking about in this presentation today. All right, so let's talk through, the first set of these practical applications. And for page analysis and optimizations, what can we really do with AI? What exists in the marketplace, and what are the strategies we can move forward with? So, jumping right in, it's a process for fixing your content overlap. So it involves really three steps: finding similar web pages, and then using a paid version of an LLM, and leveraging the following prompts that we'll share. And these are a bit rough and, can be obviously played with, take catered to your individual business and whatever the content needs are. But what we find when we do this is we fix
And
it.
so, sorry to interrupt, Scott. For everyone, when he goes over the prompts, I either recommend you take a screenshot, or you can go to my YouTube profile on Neil Patel, where you'll see this video being live streamed, or you can just go on any of my social profiles like X X has all our webinar slides, but the easiest thing to do is just screenshot it.
Yep, definitely grab a screenshot. But again, when we do this work, we see an average increase of around 13%. And one thing to note especially is if you're going to be combining pages, you want to make sure you consolidate those with 301 redirects and update any of the internal links that are pointing there as well. Jumping right into the prompt, the prompt 1 and 2 can be combined depending on the LLM that you're using, but the overall goal is to get GPT or Claude or Gemini to analyze two separate URLs and effectively compare them for overlapping concepts. And from there, you iterate and get the LLM to combine both articles, noting where the overlap occurs, but also prompting it to inject new information that can make this piece stronger than just simply merging the content together. And then in the prompt 5, you see where you can get the refinements started and ask it to expand the content, ask it to target specific heading sections. It's a good time at that point to incorporate any net new keywords that you really want to be focused on. But in general, following this process, and it's very powerful and can also be done at scale depending on what access to the LLM you have. But for us, we use this to, one, identify the overlapping issues that our content has, and two, to figure out where can we be stronger and where the traffic is greater than the sum total of its parts as two separate pages.
And don't try to combine all the prompts into one. It's just not as effective. You need to give the AI time to think.
Correct. And it'll build memory throughout the conversation and, to be honest, get a feel for what it is you're looking for the more instruction you provide. So play with it on your own, inject new data, and see what this can do for your existing content. You also want to organize your related articles into content hubs. And if you think about the way the information is really structured on the website, ideally you should have, your main themes and use ChatGPT to help you find related content topics for your website, and then have it help you organize those into related themes that make logical sense for both crawlers and LLMs when they're trying to understand the content. Just looking at an example from the Neil Patel blog, on the left side, you got SEO, where you're laying out some of the foundational elements and where those themes can really be hubs. So fundamentals of keyword research, long tail keywords, and how to adjust your strategy after a Google update fit nicely within the SEO bucket. And on the content marketing side, we have more sort of data driven, the studies, the guides, and you'll note there that it's a bit different than the grouping for SEO, because that audience is really looking for more statistics and sort of less tactical advice on what they can do going forward. Meta optimization is something that I think every SEO, needs to have as their bread and butter, and a first step to sort of moving the needle when you're trying to, accomplish gains for any organic campaign. But letting AI do a lot of the work here for you will save you, one, a bunch of time, and oftentimes will produce a very, very accurate result should the prompts be, handled with care. It can go as far as generating the alt text, the metadata tags, and even comparing what is on the existing search result page to, what it is your site is doing. Keep in mind that you can attach images into the UI for these paid versions, and it will almost infer it as if it is text. It has the ability there to understand through rendering what it is you're pasting. And very often, if I find it difficult to, attach the raw file, a screenshot will suffice. So keep this in mind when you're running your crawls, you're seeing duplicate metadata, your alt text is missing. There is a means for AI to help you as the vehicle to get this done. Without schema and scripts, you're sort of leaving the content understanding up to chance in a sense, and you'd want to hope that it's very well structured and very well written. But in general, we like to promote, in any case, adding more structure to the content and even having AI generate those for you. So if you run an e-commerce website, AI is plenty capable of, at scale, generating the product schema markup for those. It can include the reviews and also all the image files. Essentially, if you set it up correctly, it can generate all the necessary schema for your different platforms. And that translates to local businesses, whether you're a family-owned restaurant or you're a chain of restaurants. These are important. And even event schema for local businesses. So let's say you're a large e-commerce giant, schema is just as important to you as it is to the mom and pop coffee shop that can potentially tell people who are looking for events, let's say in San Diego or meetups at coffee shops, where to go. And so what schema does is help them understand that. And it gives it to AI in a way where it can process it more easily in a JSON format. So leverage AI to create schema, leverage it to create scripts for personalization, and it's amazing what can happen here when you save a bunch of time and focus on the refinements versus the generation of things. One of the ones we're also very excited about, and you don't necessarily need to be technical to get the value out of this, is Screaming Frog's integration with ChatGPT. You can do technical auditing, you can scrape your existing metadata and ask for updates, you can have it review the content, and even provide internal linking suggestions. So it will parse all the URLs that are available on that page. And if you go the extra step of providing it a set of URLs to choose from, it'll do this on the fly on a per URL basis. So this is pretty limitless in terms of what you can accomplish with this integration, but for the means of efficiency, these bullet points here are some good places to start that really involve less technical oversight. All right, and rounding it out here with some internal linking. This is a prompt that I would encourage you to screenshot as well. Again, as Neil said, this will be on our socials following this, but with the integration, you can crawl a set of pages with target URLs and really get a defined list of internal link opportunities sent back to you. So experiment with this. If an internal linking is something your site struggles with and you find that pages are often orphaned or siloed, use AI to help you really bring those back up in the architecture and give them some love, because you won't have to do it by hand anymore. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Becky to walk through some keyword research and categorization that can be done.
Cool. So once you have full customer profiles built out, like customer personas, you can actually use AI to help you target them in SERPs. You can do this by asking the AI to think as a certain persona or kind of role play as a certain persona. So then you can ask it questions about their search behavior and other things they're interested in. So this can really help with your keyword research and topical research overall. Another helpful way to use AI for keyword research is to help just sort and organize massive keyword lists. Sometimes we're working with thousands, tens of thousands of keywords in a list. So, you don't have to deal with building Excel formulas and dealing with all of that. You can use AI to easily classify them based on certain things like intent. So you can prioritize your keywords, based on your strategy more. Also, aside from typical intents, you see like what you see here, informational, transactional. You can also have AI help you organize your keywords based on positive and negative sentiment of the full keyword phrase itself. This could definitely help you understand more about how people are searching for your brand or industry in general. ChatGPT overall makes it so much easier to organize and filter data based on what you need for a specific campaign. If you have a vision of how you want to present specific sets of data, then AI can do the mundane work for you and help build that visual for whatever you're going to use it for. And if you're able to export specific data sets from, Google Search Console, Uber Suggest, then you can have ChatGPT help you visualize that data as well. So you can spend your time analyzing and strategizing solutions rather than organizing the data.
Quick note on this too, if you want it in your brand colors and guidelines, you can attach some brief instructions there and it will chart it using your colors and styling. So that's another way to save some time as well.
True. And like I said earlier, if you take advantage of your customer personas in your strategy, then you're already a step ahead of the game. You can leverage those personas as references when using AI for things like SERP research. Another thing to consider is if you if you are always, looking for consistent references back to your personas, and you can create custom GPTs as a way to sort of methodize your process even more as well. You can even take your keyword research a step further by utilizing AI to quickly generate a keyword list for, say, X topic, organized by different patterns, structures. There's a lot of different ways you can organize the keywords that you look up with ChatGPT. Like, for example, here, if you wanted to look for questions, comparisons, basic search intent patterns, brand patterns, ChatGPT can help you organize and build, your strategy around things like these. So overall, AI is amazing for efficiency and filtering data, but it's still super important to open up a search result or go to Google yourself and explore from the perspective of your user. There's nothing that, compares to firsthand analysis and the human touch. Sometimes third-party tools like SEMrush don't even get it right. So, just make sure you check your sources always. And, AI can be extremely helpful. And overall, when you're doing keyword analysis, you can look at SERPs, sentiment trends, competitor strategies, and top performing content from the eyes of your audience when utilizing AI. So speaking of content, here are some ways that AI can actually help in your content strategy too. Overall, we all know content creation isn't easy unless you have the right data and process to go with it. AI can cut off time in the research and briefing part of your content processes and help with things like topic discovery, outlining, and even creating rough drafts to help get you started on content. Tools like ChatGPT, for example, can basically put answers to your questions at your fingertips and really elevate your research so you can use your saved time for something more valuable. It goes basically at the pace of your brain. So this can help you keep the flow going when you're really in it for inspiration, insights, anything you really need to get started. But just beware of misinformation. Like we mentioned previously, you always want to make sure you cross-check your sources.
And AI is getting better with less false information and hallucination, but it still does exist quite a bit. And I don't see a world where AI will not hallucinate. And here's why. I'm not saying it won't improve. I'm not saying, AI is not the future. I'm not trying to make any of those claims. We all know it's here, and it is the future. But the way AI works is it gathers all this information from the web, and then it uses that data to figure out what outputs to create. And there's difference on opinions on a lot of subjects. And I'm not trying to get political, I'm not a health expert, but for example, if you want to talk about the COVID vaccine, I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong. You will find articles on the internet that are drastically different on vaccines, good or bad, from doctors, right? I'm not talking about from Becky, Scott, or me. I'm talking about from doctors. So when you're using EAT signals and, oh, doctors are important and they all have PhDs, you're going to get really different opinions. So how does AI know which one's right or wrong, right? And they're starting to get better in which they're trying to cite sources. But just because something is from a site like CNN or a health site doesn't mean it's right. For example, my dad would call me up and be like, Neil, you're running for senator or governor or whatever it was. I'm like, no, I'm not. They're like, CNN put a picture of you on television. And I'm like, I'm not running. And it ended up being, it was a different person. It was technically a person with the name Neil Patel. But when CNN Googles for Neil Patel, I pretty much take up all the results. So they just assumed it was me.
Well, hey, you got to own your brand, you know? So no senator run anytime soon, Neil, then.
That's right. But I'm giving you extreme examples. I'm not trying
Yeah.
to tell you which sites are good or bad. I'm just trying to tell you there's always going to be hallucination on the internet, especially with these AI platforms. It may get better, but it'll still exist.
For sure. And a good way to sort of pulse check that is ask GPT or whichever LLM to give you the physical links to their cited sources. And if it is made up, it will certainly 404. But they will essentially give you a link that you can then validate.
A good way to think about this type of research too, though, is like, when you would learn back in school how to perform research, you need to get multiple reliable resources from different types of websites. A similar way of thinking here when sourcing AI for stuff too.
Yeah.
All right. So not only can you get insight into, competitors' content and content from top ranking results for different keywords, upcoming events, trends, you can also leverage it to set yourself apart and get insights into deeply relevant and highly specific content that speaks to your audience. There's so many opportunities to use AI when you have customer profiles and personas built out to help you. With AI, you can quickly generate detailed outlines for content to help build up your queue with writers with the details and resources they need. The outlines can also be built to align with specific outcomes or customer personas in mind, just to get you started in the process. Like we've been saying all along, just make sure you double check those and use your own judgment too. And you can use it to help, rephrase or, leverage different options for different sentences. If you don't like the way a sentence sits or the way it reads, you can use AI to kind of give you more options to consider or trigger ideas for new pieces of content.
And if you have existing content that you think is a guide or a model for it to follow, definitely give it to the AI to understand what you're looking for as far as formatting or general tone and style.
Very true. Key takeaway sections. So these, along with table of contents, have actually been proven to be effective for being pulled into featured snippet spots and driving engagement on the page itself. So AI can actually help you generate these key points a user should take away from the piece of content, ultimately helping you drive more results for the page itself. And AI tools like Ubersuggest can really help you get a deeper understanding of your audience or general topic before diving into writing, which can save you tons of time from research. And not only can AI help with written text, but it can also help generate ideas for rich media elements like images, other graphics and visuals, ways to present data. Many marketing platforms actually have third-party integrations with AI image generation tools like Adobe Firefly, Midjourney, DALL-E. So check to see if you have those integrations. Otherwise, they have pretty user-friendly tools of their own that you can go to. When creating rich media, you definitely don't want to forget about optimizing your images, which is obviously something AI can do to help you too. You don't have to ever spend another minute thinking about alt text or how to, incorporate keywords in there. AI can just do that for you. So all in all, AI is extremely useful as a tool to help ignite inspiration and curiosity, as well as organize data efficiently and effectively throughout all of your keyword and content research. But the human touch is absolutely essential. No tool or algorithm is ever going to get it completely accurate, like Neil was saying. So you have to use your own best judgment on sources when encountering these tools, but they can really help you become more efficient and thorough in your research. Now, Scott's going to walk us through some local and technical AI methodologies for SEO.
Great. Thanks, Becky. So I've got a few slides here on local SEO. We'll go into some more advanced tactics, and then we'll show you all how we're using AI at NPD on a day-to-day basis. So dive right in here to Google Business Profiles. So any local business is going to should ideally have a Google My Business profile that is optimized. And fortunately, you can use AI to help you through the entire process. So in this case, or suggesting, identifying the relevant categories for a driving school to target in their business profile. You can see that it gives you a primary as well as secondaries to choose based on the services offered, and even additional optimizations through the business description, the attributes that you can add to the profile. So think of it as your sort of in-house local SEO expert that can be a sounding board for what to do with your different listings. Can also automate a lot of key tasks. So we just talked about leveraging AI for descriptions, and one of the ways you can really enhance that is through a free tool. There are many that exist, but one here is the SEM Rush, the free AI Google Business Profile Description Generator. This is available to anybody, so you don't really need an SEM Rush account to go in and give this a shot. But it is very useful for crafting the descriptions. Also gives you competitive insights, and then provides a vehicle really to reply to the reviews that you're generating on an ongoing basis when business is completed. Can also research locations to target. We'll go through an example just after this on how we did a similar exercise for UTI, one of our clients. But in this, we're looking for a list of cities within 30-minute driving distance of Naperville that have a population over 50,000. This searching on Google would take you forever to truly note that. You'd have to go through larger lists of data and really parse what it is you're looking for. But with AI, it's right there and it's available. So you can modify these prompts like I've encouraged over the last couple of slides, but wherever it is you need to get local information, whether it be through census data, it's not easily available. Leverage AI to get it and then corroborate those stats if you can otherwise. Like I was just alluding to, this was for our client, Universal Technical Institute. It actually was a winner at the Drum Awards and a finalist at the OMAs. But what the team did was we leveraged AI to, in a similar sense, find the nearby cities to campuses based on populations and distances. And then with collaboration with their internal content teams, we were able to pair the GPT and Google Sheets integration with their writing team to optimize and create over 200 local web pages. And the result of this were pretty staggering. And we saw a 411 increase in organic search sessions, saw an 18% increase in the total search inquiries, which is, again, what we care about, the bottom line. And on the ranking side, we saw 982 terms ranking position one on Google, which ultimately produced a 20% lift in non-brand rankings year over year. So important thing to note here is this was a collaborative effort, right? It was AI at the forefront to perform some of the research, to lay out how the content should be, produced, and then ultimately the execution of the content team and layering in that human element that makes a big difference in the long run. All right, we'll dive into more advanced AI powered strategies, but I think for the group, hopefully this should all be well within the realm of what you're capable at your businesses of doing. That really starts with tech SEO. I lead this team for us here in the U.S. at NG Digital, and this is one of the ways we can essentially clear the plate for the content to live on top of. We like to call this just eliminating any decelerators that can occur, and AI can help you do that. So using a tool like Sitebulb as an example, which is really, think of it as like a screaming frog on steroids with an auditing component built in. You can take that data, feed it in Excel or Google Sheets to different LLMs and ask for them to process the issues, look for plausible causes, and also suggest areas of improvement. So even on the tech side, there's a way to help AI automate some of what you're doing and give you a better lens into the issues that are actually problematic. On the link building, from both internal and external, you can have AI analyze backlink profiles, suggest high authority outreach targets, and let's say you're in a more niche industry that really needs a trade publication approach. This is a great tool to find those, to really see where that audience lives. And you can actually generate bulk outreach emails for link publishing campaigns. You can get that to be modified according to the different reporter variables or whichever you have in your data. And then on the internal side, you can have AI analyze the internal link structure of the site, suggest better options for getting users and bots to different paths through content, And you can dynamically adjust those based on the content opportunities that you're pursuing and also any new keyword opportunities you want to take advantage of. Some of this you may already start to see online. I think even in iOS, there's a new summary feature for group conversations that in a sense gets at the same kind of concept here. But we like to recommend using AI tools like ReviewCap to to provide really a summary and sort of an at a glance look of what customers are saying. That's much more consumable for the individual who doesn't want to go through each one of the reviews. I'm kind of old school and like to go look at the complaints, but this summarization, especially for a younger audience with who is used to faster delivery, is pretty critical. So you can do more than this. You can extract product sentiment, you can update product descriptions, and you can even create data-driven pieces that highlight the pros and cons of a given product against, let's say, a relative product or a competitor. So very valuable stuff here. For ecom, this is arguably one of the areas where AI can really make a massive difference because you're not producing, let's say, long form editorial pieces that require like a true writing skill. You're looking for product category descriptions, dynamic product descriptions that, based on an ASIN number or a product detail, can be generated with ease by GPT or any other platform. So can also help you generate FAQs, real questions that people might be asking online about the product. You can incorporate that directly into the piece itself, which again is only going to make things more personalized and resonate better with the user at the end of the day. Can also use AI heavily in competitive analysis. So whether that's real-time tracking of competitor keyword rankings, backlink profiles, or content performance, it is possible. And on the analysis side, whether you're using the UI of GPT or some other complex, let's say you're using an API and you're very advanced here, you can ask it to search the competitor keyword or search the competitive URLs, identify common phrases that we're not leveraging, and as a byproduct, optimize headings, the content structure. And this is a process that we've integrated directly into our own tooling internally, which I'll elaborate on in just a bit. But if you're not using AI in your competitive analysis, it's definitely time to start. And you'll see platforms like SEMrush, for example, already have AI baked into a lot of their insights to begin with nowadays. So off to a strong start there for these third-party platforms that want to get in the game here. For videos and images, you can generate prompts that help you produce transcripts, captions, translations, any necessary markup for the video, or if there's additional markup on the page you want to add, it can achieve that as well. And like Becky alluded to several times, on the image front, you don't want to ignore those. It can optimize the alt text, can create the structured data around it, can even tag it and categorize it, depending on what the file names are. So through all aspects here, definitely try and leverage some of the prompts we're sharing and get these enhancements built. A new thing that has recently launched from ChatGPT, which is effectively, your own AI agent who can perform the multi-step tasks. So that includes searching the web, extracting data, potentially at some point becoming a personal shopper. There's really a lot of tasks that can be accomplished with this, and I think it's just the beginning for these multi-step, highly intelligent LLMs that can go and do multiple forms of research without having to sit there and prompt it. So play around with this. I think it's something we're going to be exploring a lot more internally here at MPD, and something that we should all be excited about, because if we can all have our own AI agent that performs a lot of our research, I think that's pretty cool. All right, we're going to talk about how we're leveraging AI at NP Digital. And fortunately, this is my team, and we have a heavy hand in a lot of the outcomes here, so I can explain it to you quickly but concisely. So at a high level, I'm not going to go through each one of these points in our process, but what I'd like to emphasize is throughout the entire journey of a piece getting created, there is AI injected and then also human reviews and checkpoints throughout the process. So you can see on the forefront here, AI produces a lot of what the first drafts look like, some rough outlines, and then our content teams come in, enhance that with, subject matter expert quotes. We infuse the client's writing tone and style, brand guidelines, and put it through the process effectively like any other piece. But it has just gotten there using AI assistance. So from the goal at the beginning to the actual publishing of the piece, we like to use a combination of human review and heavy AI research on the upfront to make sure our people are focused on enhancing these pieces rather than generating the base content to begin with. Scout is our internal platform that has a suite of custom tools we've developed around a lot of what we deliver and a lot of different methodology that we think applies to different research categories that you don't get in other third-party tools. So beginning with the monitoring side of things, we have daily change tracking against a set of expected values for all of our clients, and those reports are sent out to the teams each morning. It identifies crawling issues, on-page changes, and indexability issues, as well as validates structured data and other elements like hreflang. So this is essentially our eyes in the back of our heads that's monitoring our client site and notifying us of any changes or issues that occur on an ongoing basis. So this has saved clients a lot of money in the past. So I'm sure we've all no indexed the page when we shouldn't, and this is one of those tools that catches it before anybody else does. On the clustering side of things, so this is really where the basis of our content creation starts. We have an internal tool on the clustering side of Scout that does a massive amount of competitive research, scrapes the search results on demand, as well as all the competitor pages that exist there in the top 5. It'll parse that HTML as well. And with just a set of primary keywords, this will produce your secondary keywords. It will go and fetch the related ones. It will produce multiple versions of meta descriptions and titles, one that is influenced by the search results, one that is not. And it'll actually generate the target audience and an outline of the article. And most recently, we've made upgrades to this to where full outlines are now written into Word documents alongside these cluster spreadsheets so that it impacts both our SEO team and the content teams that will be looking to actually produce the content pieces. So from the keyword all the way through to the outline, we have a process and an internal tool that can do this in minutes. On the keyword grouping side, we take a much different approach to, I guess you would call it just grouping these terms, whereas other tools will use a neural net and try to infer similarity between the different intent groups, where we like to let Google dictate what it is that the intent group is. So by comparing, let's say we have a list of 5,000 keywords here. What our tools do is go out and scrape the search results for each and every one of those and use some complex math and calculation to identify instances where there are 3 or more or 4 or more of the same results ranking for a given keyword. And what that allows us to do is, regardless of language, triangulate all the different variants that are possible and that Google is effectively serving the same SERP for. So in instances where you'd previously maybe create 2 pages on a topic, this will tell you that you need 1, and here are all the terms that fall within that group. So we take a lot of the human error out of things when doing it this way, because at the end of the day, we care about how Google groups these, not necessarily how we feel about them. And that's what this tool does. On the content side of things, we take all of those processes we've just walked through, and then it ultimately makes its way into the actual engine of content. So we use a lot of different methodologies. We can pull from a lot of different APIs and internal data sources, and then leverage that throughout the process. So really what we're using AI for is to execute what it is we've put together. We're not relying on it for any of the research. We go out and collect that ourselves programmatically, and then serve it to AI, having framed it and told it exactly who it is and what it's doing today.
So key takeaways, right? Look, AI is here to stay. It can do amazing things for you, but you got to use it the right way. If you look at what we do at NP Digital, we're just not plugging in everywhere and blindly. It's very specific and targeted with very key objectives, right? You can't just go tell AI, hey, I just want to increase your SEO traffic and expect it to increase your SEO traffic. It has to be really strategic in how you use it. And a lot of the prompts that we broke down today are the areas we found it to be exceptionally effective, right? So just keep that in mind, and you can find this video on YouTube and X if you want to go back and you didn't take screenshots. If you also need help with your SEO and you want us to just do everything for you, you can scan the QR code, head over to, or you can just head over to npdigital.com, one or the other. The QR code will take you there, and you can just fill out your information and we'll get in touch with you. We also have a webinar that's coming up, Switch or Stay, Why People Buy from Your Competitors. Not only will we give data on what's causing people to go to a competitor, but what you can do to keep them with you and get people to switch from your competitors to you. All right, Colin, let's start with the questions.
Let's start with the questions. Good stuff, y'all. Good stuff. Lots of good questions. Let's see. Let's start with this one. Scott, it's kind of a twofold, and funny enough, we were chatting about this before the webinar. How do I make sure my website, my web pages get indexed in ChatGPT and DeepSeek? And any insights into the implementation of the LLM.txt files that we were kind of chit-chatting about? What do you think? What do we got to do here?
So LLMs.txt, I'll start with that one, is a budding new concept where the idea is to provide essentially multiple paths to the information that your website has. So if you are, let's say, a crypto company and you have API documentation, you can include things like that in there. If you have an e-commerce brand and you have specific product data feeds, you can include those directions in there, as well as any general instructions on how to handle the content on your site, whether it's here's where our support pages are located, these are our products, these are our product feeds. There's no standardized format yet. So it's up to the webmaster and what they think is relevant to include in there. I'd recommend starting with any documentation that helps understand the product better. And certainly if you're an e-com, you want to make sure those product data feeds are listed in there. Now, indexing is a different concept, right? So search engines index content. AI is trained on the content that is available on the web. So they're not indexing the pages in a similar fashion. OpenAI doesn't have, a vested interest in parsing every piece of HTML on that page for a ranking purpose. So the ultimate goal of after indexing is to rank something, right? So with AI, they're trained on that knowledge and they surface it in whichever relative order they think. So it's not as traditional as normal search engines. And so long as you're not blocking any content or any AI related crawlers, they should be able to get your content just fine.
Awesome. Another one that is maybe best for you, Screaming Frog integration and APIs with GPTs. Any good tutorials out there that you might be aware of? Several folks were kind of like, wow, there's integration with GPTs and Screaming Frog. Any thoughts on where to go learn more about that? And then B, your initial thoughts on that, if you've been playing around with it. Does it summarize everything that's found within Screaming Frog? Can it prioritize effort over impact? I mean, all really good questions. Just any thoughts on that, because a lot of people commented on it. I wasn't aware of that integration, so it must be fairly new.
Yeah, you can do a lot there. It's something we're testing internally. I think that Screaming Frog themselves provide the best resources on their products. Now, as far as individual use cases, we've had people use it internally to create an effective outline of the existing page, to look for new internal link opportunities. We've also had it crawl competitor URLs in the same set. And the one thing we discovered is you can't really prompt it across two different URLs. So what it will do is it will analyze the existing data from that URL, not on a site-wide basis. So I would look through the Screaming Frog guide on that. I would ask yourself, what am I hoping to do with this content? Now, if you wanted to force rank and prioritize and do all of those different efforts, I would almost consider that as like a follow-up prompt. So I would have, Screaming Frog analyze the data, write and note all of it that it needs in the columns, and then I'd feed that back into AI to ask it to analyze for any, prioritization, force ranking things, explaining effort versus impact. You kind of want to layer that in a multi-step way.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Neil, I don't know, this one might be a good one for you because I've heard you address it before, but 3 or 4 times this question was asked from different people, not always the same person. What are your thoughts on Google's spam updates affecting AI generated content? And how can bloggers use AI effectively without getting penalized?
The big thing with Google, and people say different things, but what Google really cares for isn't if the content's written by AI is written by AI or not written by AI. What they really care about is a user performs a search, they land on a page, and are they happy? By happy, they're looking at signals. Are they on that website? Are they on a long time? Or do they do a Google search, click on a link, and literally within 2 seconds click the back button and then go to the next result? Because if they did that, it tells Google, hey, I did not find what I'm looking for and I don't like this result. And if a lot of people do that, then you're going to run into issues and your rankings are going to go down. And I think that's what people get wrong about AI. There's like, oh, if you do AI content, you can't rank as well, or you can rank as well. It's not about AI content and ranking. It's about what value are you providing to the user and do they like it or not. Focus on that first. And typically to do that, you got to have human intervention and have humans involved in the process, and it can't be fully AI unless it's something very simple and basic like what's 2 plus 2. You can have AI write those kind of articles all day long, or the nutrition facts about bananas. There's already a million articles around the web around those topics. You can get something great written from AI, literally almost 100% written from AI, but you're going to have an issue. It's going to be hard to rank because you're not talking about anything new, and all those articles are from really authoritative sites that are just well known within that vertical, so you're probably not going to outrank them anytime soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Neil. We got 1 minute, so one more question. Related, is there a tool that y'all like that can help to identify if content is AI written? What tools are out there to basically kind of double check the work maybe before being published? Start with Becky.
Zero
Go.
GPT is one.
Mm.
Zero GPT is one. But I think, you want to check if it's AI written so it's not 100% obvious. But at the end of the day, these tools, nobody has said that these tools are essentially, the Bible for detecting AI. Google's a lot smarter than any third-party tool that's going to be available online to check.
Like
Yeah, and
Copyscape for plagiarism.
I will say too that there's a million AI tools for everything out there, including, detecting AI content. And the best to do is to just, do your best to not get penalized in any way and just think about the user, like Neil said.
Yeah, and don't worry about sorry about that. Don't worry about detecting if content's AI written or not. Focus on what's the quality of the article. Is it fresh and up to date? Because no one wants to read something 3 years old when they could have got something that's 3 weeks old. And the third, and this is the most important one that I think most people miss, what are you talking about that's new and novel that's really helpful for someone that not a ton of other sites are talking about around this subject, right? Because the problem with most people when they're thinking about SEO and AI, the first thing that comes to most people's heads or most companies' heads was, hey, we can now go create thousands of pages of content on all topics and just crush it in rankings. It does not work that way. If it was, I would have literally a million pages on my site that were created from AI. What you'll find is the counter. If you just publish a ton of crap pages, it'll actually hurt your overall site, and your pages that are good aren't going to rank as well anymore.
Thank you for that, Neil. That's all we got time for, everybody.
Appreciate all you guys being here. Scott, Becky, Colin, thank you as much. And for anyone who wants to work with us, scan the QR code or just head to npdigital.com. We appreciate all of you guys' time.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.